Hello students, in this session we are going to discuss pollution. But before we move on to the different kinds of pollution that you know about, whether it's air pollution, water pollution, land pollution, radiation pollution, or electronic pollution or e-waste, we'll first try to define what is pollution. And we'll go to some of the basics related to this particular chapter. We'll define what is pollution, we'll see what is a pollutant, we'll see the different kinds of pollutants, we'll see how do we classify pollution. So all these basics we'll first look into, and once we have done that, we'll move into different classifications of pollution, starting with air pollution. But before we move on to that, first of all, what is pollution? Pollution touches all walks of our life, through the food we eat, the water we drink, or the air we breathe. Not only this, if you talk about the premature deaths, it is estimated that a total of 19.6 million deaths per annum happen due to pollution. One of the WHO research showed that in 2012 there were more than 12.6 million people who would have died because of environmental issues. So if I talk about pollution, what is pollution? It is an undesirable change in the physical, chemical, and biological characteristics of air, water, and soil that may harmfully affect the life or create a potential health hazard for living organisms. So this was a definition which was given by none other than Eugene Odom. Apart from that, another way of looking at a definition is pollution is the release of harmful substances or energy into the environment by man in quantities that damage health and resources. So here we are talking about quantities. Why we are talking about quantities, we'll just come to it. Then the next way to arrive at a definition can be pollution is the accumulation of substances in the environment or at rates of flow which exceed the capacity of the ecosystem to either neutralize or disperse them to harmful levels. So you see here there are three ways of looking at what is pollution. So why we are talking about quantities? Because there are many things, there are many kinds of substances which are not harmful if they are present in normal amounts or trace amounts. For example, if you talk about nitrogen compounds which are used in the agricultural fields. So until a point they are not harmful, but if there is an excessive use of this nitrogenous compound in the fertilizer, then it becomes a pollutant, then it starts to pollute the nearby water bodies. So it depends on the quantity as well. So these are the three ways in which we can define pollution. Next, what do we mean by a pollutant? So anything living or non-living or a physical agent that in its excess makes any part of the environment undesirable can be called as a pollutant. Another way in which we can define pollutant, this was given in the Environment Protection Act of 1986. That a pollutant has been defined as a solid, liquid, or gaseous substance present in such concentration as may be or tend to be injurious to the environment. So when we say pollutant, it is a substance, it can be a normal substance, but two things, if you look at these two keywords, one, the quantity, and second, the concentration. These are the two things that can make a substance a pollutant, right? Then let's try to define what are the different kinds of pollutants. First, we can say non-degradable pollutants, and as the name itself suggests, something that cannot be broken down by natural processes like the action of microbes. So these may also react with other compounds in the environment to produce toxins and can be further divided into two classes. One, waste, and second, poisons. So you can look at some of the examples of waste and poisons and you would understand that what is a non-degradable pollutant. Then the next kind of pollutant that we have is a biodegradable pollutant, and again this definition was given by Eugene Odom. Now even something which is degradable, it can degrade very fast or it can degrade slowly, and depending on that we again classify this particular kind of pollutant into two kinds. One which is degradable and is a very fast process, or the degradation is a very fast process. So if you have to take an example, you can talk about sewage waste, which is very easily degradable. Then slowly degradable or persistent pollutant. In this case, the process is very, very slow. And here you can talk about substances which are radioactive. So these kind of substances which would not degrade very slowly, although they would degrade over a period of time, but not as easily as something like a sewage waste, would be called as slowly degradable or persistent pollutant. Next, let's see what are the agents that cause pollution. First, you have the solid waste, you have the liquid waste, you have the gaseous waste, and you have the waste which are without waste. What is it? I'll just come to it. Let's start with the first one, which is pollution caused by solid wastes. So the solid waste include the pollutants like garbage, rubbish, ashes, large waste formed due to demolition and construction processes, dead animal waste, and agricultural waste, right? Then the next is the pollution which is caused by the liquid waste. So if we talk about the aquatic life, in this you know that the cycling of oxygen happens very easily in the aquatic life. But let's say an extra food or extra organism is provided in that water body. What will happen after that is that the bacteria that are present in the water body will start to supply oxygen to all these extra resources. Now, over a period of time, there is a possibility that the rate of deoxygenation is more than the rate of reoxygenation. And if this happens over a period of time, the amount of oxygen which is present for all these organisms to survive in the water body will start to decrease. And due to that, there is a possibility that they will start to die. And this is what can lead to water pollution. Now, so that's why if we talk about the pollution that is caused by liquid waste, first of all, the most important source of organic pollutants is sewage, which can contain fecal matter, urine, kitchen wasting, and oil washings. After that, and the strength of organic waste matter of sewage is measured in terms of BOD or biochemical oxygen demand. That's something that we have already seen. Now, next is the pollution that is caused by gaseous wastes. So this includes carbon monoxide, sulfur dioxide, nitrogen dioxide, ozone, smog, all these gases which are harmful for us in higher amounts. And then these gases are more abundant in the atmosphere of industrial areas or industrial cities, or the cities which have higher number of vehicles. So next that we have is pollution from waste without weight. What do we mean by without weight? Radioactivity, heat, noise. So if we talk about noise pollution, it does not carry any weight, right? So that's why these kind of pollutions are called as pollution from waste without weight. Now, in the entire nuclear process, starting from the mining of uranium itself and going up to the last step, minute amounts of radioactive material always starts to get released into the atmosphere. And because of that very reason, radioactive pollution takes place. Also, let's say there is a nuclear test that happens. During the nuclear test, also a huge amount of radioactive material gets released into the atmosphere. So all these become the ways in which a radioactive element or a radioactive waste is released into the environment. After that, you have second source, which is heat. How heat? When you talk about the industries and the automobile, hot liquid streams or hot gases are released by them, and this causes issues in the environment. Then the third one is noise. So whether you talk about the vehicular noise or you talk about the use of transistors, radios, etc., public address systems, all these are also ways in which noise pollution gets released in the atmosphere. So these are some of the agents of pollution. So if you just look at this diagram, this is how we can summarize it. The major sources of pollution that we have: one is agriculture, energy, industry, manufacturing, services, transport, and waste. So all these examples are given. I would ask you to Just pause for some time and have a look at all these things that have been given here before moving on. Next, let's see what and how we can classify pollution. So classification here we have done on two bases, one which is natural, one which is artificial. So natural, something that originates from the natural processes, and artificial, which originates artificially by the interaction between humans and the environment. What are the different types of pollution? And this is the major focus that we will have in this particular unit. One by one we'll discuss all these, starting with air pollution, then we'll have water pollution, land pollution, noise pollution, and radioactive pollution. And we will also discuss e-wastes. And in small detail, we'll also look at light pollution. Correct? Then next is what is the effect of pollution that we have. So the first effect that we need to see is on plants. Now, talking about the effects on plants, first of all, if you see the major pollutants, you have sulfur dioxide, hydrogen fluoride, and photochemical smog. Now, due to pollution, what can happen is, first of all, the growth of plants can be retarded, or sometimes the plants may start to die. Now, if you look at as an individual plant, it's very simple to see that, okay, one plant died or the growth in one of the plants was retarded. But you have to look at the entire system, the entire ecology. Now, we have already discussed food chain and food web. And we know that all these plants and animals and different organisms are interdependent. So even if one of the actors in this entire food chain is disturbed, the entire food chain will be disturbed, and there is a possibility of a collapse of the food chain. So that's why the effect of pollution on individual plants we should not see. We have to see the entire ecosystem that gets affected. Then the effect on animals. So first of all, it can cause eye and respiratory irritation, not only in animals but also on humans. Water pollutants can endanger aquatic life, killing millions of fishes and other animals every year. Sewage, toxic chemicals, and diseased animals can make water unfit for the use of farm animals. Then the effect of human beings. We know that different kinds of diseases can be caused due to environmental factors. So sufficiently high levels of pollutants are toxic or even lethal to every human being, and many of the diseases can be waterborne, and some of the lung diseases, respiratory diseases can happen in the humans. If you talk about the effect on materials, then pollutants like sulfur dioxide or sulfuric acid can corrode metals and building materials, increasing the frequency of repair and replacement. Water pollutants such as suspended particles or dissolved inorganic compounds can also adversely affect pumps, industrial equipments, and bridges. And even the noise from a supersonic aircraft can damage buildings and break windows. So